Over multiple visits to Barcelona, this city has proven to be one of our favorites, with some truly stunning sights to see. And we're going to give you the tips to make your trip a success. Now, we arrived on a red-eye and were determined to hit the city in an effort to stay awake all day and reset our internal clocks. We had some coffee and stopped at a store for snacks. Nick just made a really good point. We've noticed that a lot of the shops are closed today, even though it's a Saturday. It is a national holiday, and you would not have known that if you didn't look up national holidays in advance. Sort of like if you came to the US on July 4th, that day would mean nothing to you, but everything would be closed. Today is a holiday, a feast in honor of St. John, and there's a lot of stuff closed, but it's actually nice because it's all kind of laid back. And so far, nothing we've been trying to get to has been closed. I have found it a little bit tricky to navigate the streets and directions because they don't have big street signs you can see at a distance. You have to get right up on the corner of the building to see the sign of the street name. And between that and the fact that the street names have like 4 and 5 Spanish words to them, some of the words are things like road, but it's enough that it takes me a minute. At first, we just got acclimated to the city, soaking in the European architecture and peeking into shops. Even the touristy souvenir shops seemed upscale compared to many places we've traveled. But remember that Feast of St. John? Even the big Boqueria was closed. That was a bit of a bummer. So we moved on to the museum that we had reserved tickets for and we knew for sure was going to be open. It seems appropriate in as modern a city as Barcelona, filled with street art, to take in a modern art museum. So we went to the Moco Museum. There were many artists we recognized, and some that we didn't, but the pieces were stunning. Yes, even Banksy was there. But we had never experienced NFTs and digital art in a museum setting before. Some of them were really beautiful, and some were huge and immersive, which was fun. That museum was really cool. It took us 1 hour, so it's not one of those that takes all day long. It's almost 3:30, and at this point, I just wish I'd used that toothbrush from the amenity kit. I have Listerine strips. Then it was back to the hotel to get settled into our room and take a little afternoon break. We got back to the room about 4:15, and I took a bath that was so relaxing that I fell asleep for a few minutes. But now I'm feeling refreshed and not smelly, and it is Nick's turn to take a shower, but I'm gonna draw the blackout curtains and take a little siesta. That night we went to a 100% gluten-free restaurant and had some fantastic food. In fact, we ate well the whole time we were in Barcelona, and you can find all those reviews in our food video. Then it was back out to explore the city. While we walk to the park, why don't you hit the subscribe button so you can follow along on all of our adventures? We really appreciate you guys. Don't look now, but I think there's a woolly mammoth right behind me. What is that? Welcome to the Parc de la Ciutadella. The music, you feel like you're in some old-fashioned movie. So Nick was just reading to me that this park has the zoo. It has a number of other structures and is huge. And at one point was really the only green space in the city. And this fountain is going to light up beautifully once it gets just a tiny bit darker. So we are here in late June, right? Yeah.
Literally days off from the equinox.
Yeah.
Meaning that this will be the latest that the sun goes down.
Oh, that's true. And it's currently almost 10 o'clock.
Yes.
It's very late. My time My internal clock is so confused right now.
You think it's like 3 p.m. or
Oh my
something.
gosh, it's almost 10 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay, but it's late June. It was rather warm this morning, but then by afternoon it kind of eased up,
And there's a
oddly
bit of a
enough.
breeze.
Yeah, and right now there's almost a chill in the air, but there's still some humidity hanging around. So if you're just wondering, like, sundresses are perfect, and it has not been overbearing.
And even I've been in jeans, and I normally, once I hit 80 degrees Fahrenheit, I have little interest in long pants.
Not very patient with heat.
No. And I've been okay.
Yeah, it's not overwhelmingly hot. Don't worry. Not only is it 10 p.m., but it's 10 p.m. and everyone's kids are still out. Last time when we had paella in Barcelona, it was the same way. Kids playing ball in the streets at 10 p.m. Just get used to it. So in Nick's research, they said it's coming at night, the fountain gets all lit up, very pretty. Maybe not tonight because it seems there's a private event up at the very top. So there were no lights tonight. But it was still very, very pretty.
Or maybe
and so
it was
I'm
too
not mad that we
bright
came.
out.
Maybe because the sunset is so late this time of year, but either way, it's beautiful to come even if they don't light it up.
We don't.
That needs to stop. It's happened a few times. I'm over it. We are back in the room. We made it till almost midnight. So I feel like jet lag is not going to get the better of us. We are resetting our clocks to the right time. And getting a full night's sleep is going to feel amazing. It was a really good day in Barcelona. I'm telling you, we love this city. There is a real kind of beachy but European, lots of sundresses, lots of platform shoes. People like to dress up but also aren't fussy. It's really kind of best of a lot of different things that we love. And I hope that you love Barcelona too when you come to visit. When we came 12 years ago, there were two things that we wanted to be really aware of. One, we were told pickpockets were an awful, awful problem, and everywhere we went, we were scared. We did not see as much panhandling and people approaching tourists and being aggressive with them like we did 10 years ago. 12 years ago? It was a decade plus. And so that may not be as much a thing anymore, or maybe we're just being, we understand how to be cautious without being afraid, because last time we were so freaked out and it never actually was an issue. So it's not worth letting yourself be stressed about it. Two, I think we were really concerned about fashion. Nick had read somewhere that none of the men in Barcelona would ever wear shorts. And he was like, well, I just wear cargo shorts in the summer. And so he, suffered through with jeans on. And the more we've been around Europe, I think some of that's changed. More recently, there have been more and more shorts on men in Europe. And so today, like, everybody was wearing shorts. No one cared. And so if you're a guy and you want to wear shorts, don't worry about showing your legs in Europe. I don't think that is a faux pas anymore. There were also plenty of women in sundresses and skirts wearing sneakers. So if you are doing a lot of walking, don't be afraid to take care of your feet. But last time we were here, we said this is maybe our new favorite city, and it holds up. We still really love it. I've been impressed with pricing being a little less than what I'm used to back in New York. I thought dinner prices were really reasonable. I thought the spa menu at the hotel has some really reasonable prices. I kind of wish I'd gotten some spa services while I was here. So check it out. You may be really impressed with the pricing. The pricing at the grocery store was incredible. I wish I could get those prices at home. And I feel like I should just say, even though it's an incredibly clean city, and we really enjoyed our time in the city, it's still a city. So if you're not a city person and you're not used to being really aware of your surroundings and making sure you're going into places that are well lit and well populated and just some basic city safety sense, you may want to brush up on those general ideas, because we had to be aware of our surroundings. And there were a number of times today where things happened that the average person who doesn't live in a city might be a little thrown by. There was a guy who was clearly dealing with some demons of his own and was using a lot of language and felt like he was following us, but he wasn't, and we turned and he didn't follow us, and it was fine. but we had to be aware of what was going on behind us. There was a woman who was walking ahead of us who kept repeatedly dry heaving, and I surmised that she was pregnant and that she wasn't looking for help, and that this was just her norm. Bless her. That sounds miserable. But I think most people that had someone ranting and cursing behind them, or someone in front of them throwing up, that would be cause for alarm. And for us, living in a city where we've had some exposure to a lot of different kinds of people, some of that is just, we're gonna live alongside you, and we'll step in if you need help. And if you don't need help, we're gonna try to be aware, but not let it rattle us, because that stuff could be a little weird and could be a little off-putting if it's not something you're used to. It's a city. It's gonna be like that. All in all, it was a beautiful day, some delicious food, and I think there's more tomorrow. So let's go to bed. Good night. We were in Barcelona to embark on a cruise with Virgin Voyages, and day 2 was the day we headed to the ship. But first, we had more of the city to see. Good morning.
Good morning. You have such a calm lilt to your voice.
I'm getting ready for church.
So we are en route to Sagrada Familia to go to the International Mass at 9 a.m., which apparently has a capacity of 500 people.
And they say you should get there 45 minutes early just to be safe.
And it's now 42 minutes early, and we're still about 15 minutes away.
So we'll see how it goes. We did get a little delayed at the hotel, and it's just that they were slammed with guests checking in this morning, and so it took a while to get our bags checked for the day. And
it's not the hotel's fault.
Not really. It was just happenstance. And so now we're on our way. One note, if you're walking around Barcelona, there are crosswalks with green walk signs, and they start to flash when it's like, watch out, don't come, it's about to turn red. They flash for about, I don't know, half a second before they turn red and you get run over.
-1 second.
It's very, very fast. If that green is flashing, don't start to go. No. Nobody else is awake on a Sunday morning at 8:30. You're walking down the street. John Church just appears. Wow. That is Sagrada Familia.
And we're on the outside.
So we power walked here, and I'm a little bit sweaty.
She's schwitzing.
But we still got here, and they said that it was full. So when the website says get here 45 minutes early, we were here
25 minutes early.
Yeah, that wasn't enough.
That was clearly not enough.
No. There's a small group of people outside still. I don't know how many people have given up and left. So we aren't the only ones. It did reach capacity. They have a second service in Spanish. The main altar is the international service, and the Spanish service is in the crypt altar. And rather than try to pretend we're locals and go to a Spanish service, we were like, okay, we'll go to breakfast. Generally speaking, finding either a service or a concert at a church is a great way to see it, in a way that's a little less touristy than buying a ticket and going in the middle of a weekday.
Walking around.
Yeah, and looking around. When nothing's going on or being observed, you get to kind of see it in action, which is fun and more economical, but doesn't always work out.
Not when you miss it.
It's okay. It's a really lovely park, which is kind of necessary to take it in, because you can't see it from the sidewalk right in front of the church. It's just too big.
That's what she said.
Stop. I like this one. I call this one Elsa's Tower. You can tell they're putting some of the finishing touches on the top, and they're colorful. They're really interesting. So maybe by the time we make our next visit to Barcelona, the work will be done, and we can take in a service inside the completed Sagrada Familia. And remember, this is embarkation day, so we have to get to the ship, but Virgin Voyages cruises are all aboard quite a bit later than other cruise lines. So instead of getting there at 10, you get there at 2 or 4, which gives us some time to enjoy Barcelona. And so some of the things that we're gonna get cut from our potential plans for today are now back on the schedule. A couple of notes that we think are helpful for anyone traveling to Barcelona. Every time we check out, Nick has been given the option, do you want to pay in
US dollars or euros? And I select euros because the card that I use, which is largely here Chase Sapphire Preferred, doesn't have a foreign transaction fee, and the exchange rate is better from the credit card company than it would be from the store exchange process.
So, pay in euros is recommended if you have a credit card with no foreign transaction fees. And secondly, we've heard some people talking about tipping. Now, in the US, it's very common to tip. It's kind of expected because a lot of food service industry folks don't make enough from their salary to make a living, and they're expecting those, right?
None of them.
So they're expecting the tips to be what is really the bulk of their pay. But in a lot of Europe, tipping is not the norm. And what we have surmised on this particular trip is that it's become very common for tourists here to tip, and it's appreciated, especially if service is really great. At the same time, the locals still don't. So if you're someplace that is a tourist-heavy restaurant, they may expect it a little bit, but you're never obligated. The tourists will, the locals won't, and you can make the decision that's right for you. You're not going to be a weirdo either way.
Hey.
We are on our way to
Casa Mila.
Which is different from
Casa Padrera.
I feel like the other location is more popular. It may just be because of where it's located. But we opted for this one because
I don't know why I opted for this one over the other one, to be honest.
good talk. But
if you find this content useful,
be sure to subscribe. No. I do want to mention a couple things that we did on our last trip to Barcelona, which are the reasons why we're not doing them this time, even though you probably should do them because they're pretty good. We showed you yesterday that we tried to go to the market.
Boqueria.
The Boqueria. And it was closed because of the festival. But we did go last time and can vouch that it's a really cool experience to walk through all the booths and stalls. And last time we also did a nighttime bus. It wasn't a hop on, hop off. And initially we weren't eager to do it because we thought it was going to be super touristy. But at the end of the day, there's a lot to see. And if walking this much is an issue, then we recommend it.
And that particular night bus had a stop at Montjuic, where, I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, apologies, where there is essentially a fountain light show that was actually really cool. So that was a real highlight of that particular tour.
So if you're not doing the fountain we went to see last night at
Words are hard.
I'll put the name of it right here. Then you can go to that fountain because that light show was really cool. I also want to mention though that bus tour drove us by the Barcelona Olympic Stadium, which was also really cool to see. We didn't do anything that took you inside
Sagrada Familia.
And Sagrada Familia at night on a bus. So as much as I would usually shy away from touristy buses, that was a pretty good experience. We were just approaching and saw this statue in the front, and I said, that looks like the statue in Jersey City, which I'll put a picture of here. And turns out the Jersey City statue is made by a Barcelona-based artist, and so I think I found the sister statue. Does anyone else feel like we're about to ride Voyage of the Little Mermaid? We did really appreciate the free audio tour available in many languages at Casa Mila. We didn't so much appreciate the 6 flights of stairs, but we chose them because the line for the elevator was so long. that was such a cool experience, and I'm actually glad we got to make it happen because I didn't think it was going to happen today. So this is kind of a lesson in having backup plans when you travel, because when Sagrada Familia didn't work out and our breakfast place didn't work out, we had a secondary gluten-free place, the bakery, and we had a secondary Gaudi architecture learning opportunity when we went to Casa Mila. So I kept getting confused because I was like, is this Casa Mila or is this La Padrera? It's both.
Yes.
La Pedrera is a nickname for the building because it looks like it's been hewn out of stone, and Pedrera means quarry. So they both work, and we got to see some of the sculptures and art by Jaume Plensa, and I immediately recognized the artist from both in Jersey City, right by where we live. They have a big sculpture that was just put up last year, I think, that I recognized had to be the same artist. It looks very similar. And we also passed a gate yesterday that was all kinds of letters and different alphabets welded together. And when I saw the art, I was like, oh, that's what I saw. So it's kind of fun to see all that coming together with an art exhibit that you can learn a little bit more about the origins of. In the early 1900s, Casa Mila commissioned Antoni Gaudi to redo the building and make it the kind of pinnacle of his career. They said that this was the last thing he worked on before he took the rest of his time and the rest of his life working on Sagrada Familia. The tour is really cool because you get to tour an apartment that's decorated the way it would have been decorated in the 1900s, early 1900s, and you get to see then some of the attic is really neat. They've turned it into an exhibit about Gaudi's approach and his architecture and some of the things he's worked on and contributed to. And then on the roof, you got to see some of the sculptures, and they had some of Jaume Plensa's art interspersed throughout all of it. So it was like a bonus art within the tour that gave you some history. It like, I love things that look like historical recreations, and so you got some of that experience. It was all really cool. It's now listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site as of the 1980s. Something that has surprised us is how many people don't speak English. I know I don't want to presume ever that people need to accommodate me, but I seem to have recalled having more service people speak English when we were here last time.
Mm-hmm.
And there have
other
been
countries,
yeah,
it's more prevalent.
it's kind of like the go-between, and if it's not, that's okay, and I really need to work on my Spanish. But I go in and say my friendly welcome, hello, thank you in Spanish, but that's all I've got, really. And I kind of hope that they can help me with the other parts. And I've been surprised how many times someone had to go get a secondary person who could be the English speaker there. It was less than I thought spoke English. One last time, we soaked up the lovely decor of the Cotton House Hotel, which we will do a full room tour of in our next video. And then we headed to the port to meet our ship, the Valiant Lady, still entertaining daydreams of moving to Barcelona one day. We truly love this city, and we hope that you do too. I'm so grateful you joined us for this stop, and we'll see you at the next port, travelers.